everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ad Project Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Schellerud, and today I am joined by Keith from Made In. Keith, it's awesome to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you inviting me back.
Yeah, and so we did this last year, same time?
Yeah, same time. 1 year later. So.
Yeah. So for those who didn't catch that episode, maybe give us a general overview on Made In and maybe your journey in general in the e-commerce space and what you've done.
Yeah, so I joined Made In early 2022. They were a traditional D2C brand. Amazon was their first kind of omni-channel experience. And I believe like last year when we talked, it was like year one of like, did Amazon work for you in Made In? So I kind of just talked about, things we did. So I guess we had a unique experience in that Made In had not been on Amazon until I got there. So we were able to kind of test some things like incrementality, whether or not these customers were truly new to brand, were we cross-channel cannibalizing the website and other channels. So found out some really great insights from that, and really like this past year has been about more scaling the new to brand customer and what is, I guess, the potential for Made In on Amazon.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the products for Made In, just to kind of set the stage there, and then I'd love to get into some of the strategies that you've implemented.
Yeah, so kitchen products, so cookware, tabletop, bakeware, knives. Our Made In's kind of proposition is where the product is made in, so primarily Europe, USA. I always tell people the chef knife is made in the same factory where her great-great-grandfather invented the shape of the chef knife. So there's a historical provenance to why everything is made where it's made.
Yeah, that's so cool. So where do you want to start? From the last episode to this episode, like maybe some key pieces. Do we start on like the branded side, or where do you want to start?
Let's do that. So year one was I had a very select ramp-up period for Made In where I wanted to do things in a specific order so I could answer questions. There was questions of, are these sales truly incremental? Are we just stealing website customers and then basically paying referral fees for them to buy on Amazon?
Sure.
Are these customers that would not have bought if we weren't on Amazon? Like the branded searches were already there for Made In, just the products weren't. And a lot of brands kind of have this issue where they've built up all this Amazon demand from just overall performance marketing.
Sure. And
they're just not meeting it yet. So I had the chance to do very specific things. So I think I talked about this last year. First 90 days, I said, hey, we're only going to do branded sales, branded advertising. We're FBM, we were able to kind of collect all this data and show that Amazon truly was incremental. Now, there was some cross-channel cannibalization, small percentage. But for the most part, these were incremental sales with great unit economics.
And so how did you determine that? So you're doing just branded search. Now, how do you determine that it is incremental sales?
Well, so we did FBM, so we had customer data, and we basically compared it to customer data from previous orders on Shopify.
Sure.
What we found at the time is that there was a 10% channel mix, but half of that 10% started on the website first, came to Amazon. The other half actually started on Amazon and then came to the website. And so when you look at it, now of course, as time has gone on and things have become more mixed, that percentage is higher. But that's just to be as expected as you grow more and more omni-channel. You can't differentiate where the customer first touch point is.
Sure. That's cool. So you ran just branded. All right, FBM, now I get the information, now I can compare. So essentially you'd be looking at like, all right, if somebody bought on my Shopify store, now do they come to Amazon or does it go vice versa after the fact?
Yeah, so we saw both of that, and then most brands, I guess when they launch on Amazon, they come swinging right out the gate, non-branded advertising, new-to-brand customers. I didn't want that because I wanted all the organic and advertising sales to be Made In terms. That way I could answer these questions. You start throwing in generic frying pan, stainless cookware terms, and it's going to throw the skew more favorable for Amazon. I actually wanted the worst possible outcome
Yeah.
for the channel to show if this was effective.
Yeah. And Made in itself, the brand name, that's got to be a little bit trickier one.
Yeah,
to actually target.
Made in, as I mentioned, is made in USA. It's also made in European countries, so Italy, for example, France. People will do a branded search of made in USA cookware, and they're looking for the brand made in, but that's also a common non-branded term. So I've had this kind of issue. At first, I figured it out through negative targeting, where I was mixing in these branded and non-branded customers, and that was also part of the reason why I only wanted to do branded advertising for the first 90 days, and I actually just did exact match made in cookware.
Yeah.
That way I wouldn't catch all these countries because it would be skewing my results.
Yeah. So then as you're building up, so first 90 days just focusing on branding and really just trying to see, am I cannibalizing sales from my offsite store, my Shopify store. After that, then started expanding and trying to drive other incremental sales through the ads, and then what came next in the progression?
Yeah, so by the time day 90 hit, we were midway through the year. So then I started kind of a linear growth path of spend for non-branded ads, leading into Q4, and then really this past year has been, how do I fully build out non-branded advertising to the point where I've basically maxed out my lower funnel? We've still done very limited DSP. Views retargeting, low frequency. I'm not doing any prospect. I wanted to truly max out the search funnel this year.
Sure.
We're not quite there. So, I am a fan of DSP, but if a brand like us can have massive spin just in search without DSP, I think most brands are not fully taking advantage of all the lower funnel opportunities. I mean, you look at every targeting type: sponsored brand keywords, sponsored brand ASIN, category targeting SP, SD. I mean, there's so many targeting types that are just not taken advantage of.
Yeah. And we're definitely aligned there too when we look at this. Is like, before getting into DSP, especially upper funnel DSP, making sure that you're maxing out the lower funnel, like the lower part of the funnel, because that's where all the low-hanging fruit is. And the further you get up, the further away you get from somebody who is like actively searching. So you're trying to drive more new to brand sales, and ROAS, as you continually go up the funnel, tends to decrease over time.
Yeah.
So as you've been looking at expanding, like say like the bottom of the funnel in terms of like search terms or more general terms, like how do you figure out what's your criteria on how broad you go to determine when you've maxed out bottom of the funnel?
26 months now. So those first 3 months I didn't have any non-branded spend, but every month I've increased spend continuously. So I have tools I use that kind of show indexing on market penetration. AMC has the ability to do that as well, or basically it shows kind of percentage of customers searching for a specific search term, like how many people are responding to your ad or actually viewing it.
Sure.
I still have quite a ways to go. There's plenty of search opportunity left.
Yeah. So what is the... all right, I include this term or I don't include this term. Is it ROAS goals that you're looking at, or what's the criteria that you use when I'm trying to expand this, but I don't want to go too far up?
Yeah, so I have a sheet I built. So like, we'll say frying pan, for example. We sell many different types of frying pans, right? We got stainless, we got nonstick, we got enamel cast iron, we got carbon steel.
Yeah.
Most people that search frying pan honestly want a stainless or a nonstick. That's just where the market's at. And so I will advertise phrase match all my frying pans, but I know generally where that conversion rate's going to be for each material type, and I just start my bids there. Very low, non-aggressive. I have always been a believer of every sale needs to be profitable. That's just how I operate, and I don't try and do massive ranking campaigns where I'm selling at a loss just to drive a organic ranking. I'm coming out profitable every single sale, and it's worked for the brand Made In, and yeah.
Yeah. How what would you say is the overall percentage of like cross sales? So somebody comes in and they buy that original non-stick frying pan. How many people come back and repurchase? Do you have a good idea on like repurchase rate, and does that factor into advertising strategy at all?
Yeah, I do. There's an account level repurchase rate, but that also varies on material type.
Sure.
So carbon steel is very much like cast iron. It has to be seasoned, and there's a learning curve there. And for some people, it can be difficult. So that material type actually has a lower lower LTV, repeat purchase rate, because of the difficulties of the product.
Sure.
Whereas some of our other ones are much higher. Those are things, I kind of suspected, but as I've had time to grow the account and just more data come in, I've been leaning more into where I know the LTV's at.
Sure. And as you look at overall like ad type mix or marketing mix, like where are you investing? So like sponsored products. I know you talked about all the different targeting types, but
Yeah.
like, what is your step-by-step process on like what to start with first, and how do you build up upon that?
Yeah, so over time, I've actually leaned more into SP. A lot of sponsored displays gone to contextual.
Sure.
And what I've noticed is the match product for contextual is actually just our own product. And so it's just inflating the results. I haven't figured out a way to do negatives on a lot of that sponsored display. I don't know if there is a way. But things that are mixed and more contextual, I've shied away from and leaned in more exact match, phrase match, SP and SB.
Yeah. Is there any strategies you've been looking at, like, all right, I have my initial purchases, now trying to drive cross purchases with ads? Or is that a layer that could still be added on later?
So you're saying like self-targeting on your PDP kind of thing?
Yeah, so like somebody came and they bought my non-stick frying pan. Is there other opportunities to now sell them other made-in equipment or gear?
Yep, so I do sponsored display, views remarketing, purchase remarketing.
Sure.
I do CPC, I don't do VCPM. So CPC version of that is where DSP views retargeting can help.
Yeah.
What I've always suggested to people, DSP, you can spend infinitely in. Like, if you don't have frequency caps, if you don't have flight budgets, it can eat up your whole spend. I've always said, hey, I'm going to allocate this percentage towards views remarketing, purchase remarketing, and that's where I've capped it. I want to have those touch points, but I don't want to spend infinitely into it. And there's AMC queries for basically cost per acquisition based off DSP frequency out there now that helps. So
yeah. And talk through like with Amazon Marketing Cloud. So are there other ways that you're leveraging it, or like key data points or things that you've gotten out of that help you?
Yeah. So the generic queries are pretty helpful. There is one we use where basically it's almost like a path to conversion, but it's more of you've typed in the word frying pan,
sure,
and then you love the brand, and then you go back and you type in a made-in search term. And so what happens is people interact with a non-branded ad, they type in made-in, they interact with the branded ad, they purchase, and that last click attribution now kind of is inflating branded sales. Yeah. Really, that's a non-branded ad. And so when you account for that, what your non-branded ROAS is actually under-indexed because X percentage migrated to branded. And so for us, it was helpful of these ads are actually much more successful than they are, sure, just because the path to conversion at a search term level, not necessarily like an ad type, is different.
Yeah. And I love that too. It's like you can use the first touch attribution models to help out with that, layering in customer journey. And it's going to be those more general terms that are going to drive a lot of new to brand growth too.
Yeah.
So they are helping to generate those branded searches later down the road, which is awesome because now if they're searching directly for your brand, like you've made that connection, you've built that relationship, and now it may not even be just that first sale, but it could be subsequent sales after that. So higher lifetime value overall.
Yeah, what actually sparked this is I had kind of mapped out branded searches to overall media spend, so I could estimate what my branded searches would be at one point. And then I estimate, okay, per search, I'm going to spend this amount of branded ad spend, and then this amount of branded ad spend is going to lead to this many sales per search.
Yep.
And the number was off. I had too many branded searches, and it just wasn't making sense, and it wasn't a repeat purchase problem. It was, where are these branded searches coming from?
Sure.
And that's what kind of drove that question of where are they coming from,
Yeah. So I know you've expanded into Walmart. In full disclosure, we're working with Keith on Walmart.
Yeah.
And so give me your overall take on the Walmart marketplace in general and how you feel about that, the ad platform, and how it compares to Amazon overall.
Yeah, so the ad platform's made pretty big stride. I mean, it's no secret that Amazon's ad platform is behind on compared to Walmart's ad platform is behind Amazon's ad platform. They've made huge strides in the last few months. I know you couldn't do conquesting of branded terms. Mm-hmm. That released, I think, a month ago. Yep. Is negative? Can you do negatives yet?
Negatives, not yet.
Can't do negatives yet. Hopefully next month. So it's been more of a struggle, and kind of what I talked about earlier of like what the made-in brand name is, and getting really granular on what is a branded customer and what is a non-branded customer. If you can't negate keywords, that becomes more mixed. Not that we're not having success there, we just don't have that data yet to make certain decisions and move campaign spin where it needs to be for some things.
Sure.
But yeah, so far it's good. No complaints, but I imagine Walmart will catch up in what the ad console there can do and will probably match most of Amazon's capabilities within the year.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun working with the Walmart team, and they've made some major strides. So still definitely working on building up the platform as a whole. What's nice is they've also seen the blueprint on what's been successful, and so there's been a lot of pieces that we've been able to implement pretty quickly once they get them rolled out. So like being able to do branded targeting on the Walmart side, that's been awesome. That adds a lot of possibilities. That also adds in the potential for having to now defend the brand too.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun seeing the progression there and some of these gaps that they still have. I know they're actively working on it. So yeah, it's been a fun platform and kind of reminds me of like being in the Amazon space, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I remember like 2018 compared to 2019 Amazon ads was, 2019 video and search rolled out. Yeah. Headline ads, sponsored brand ads totally changed. You started seeing more creatives.
Yeah.
It was just a fast progression.
Yeah. So any other major things that you've experienced this year, or I guess what's like plans going forward look for you?
So we're doing international. We started last year, but there's a big push this year, more international. We're leaning more heavily into Canada. Still plenty of opportunity in the U.S., but kind of like our U.S. journey of there are made-in fans across the world from just the brand growing and being out there, and we're trying to meet that kind of branded demand first in all these international marketplaces, and then ramp those up.
Yeah, how has that been going?
Really well. It's been surprising of how much demand there is, and most of these brands you hear that are expanding international are realizing this.
Yeah, are expanding internationally.
So that is a little bit of a struggle. Advertising for some countries has been a little bit of a struggle. We are focused on EU5. For most people, Germany is going to be your biggest market, and then outside EU, UK. But even if you're doing pan-Euro FBA, all those other, France, Italy, Spain, Sweden, that all adds up to be equal to, like a Germany or UK.
Sure.
So when you look at the European marketplace, like all of Europe with UK, I want to say it's like 25% bigger than what the US is. It's just solving the fragmented issue of localization, language, ad consoles for every country.
Yeah. And if you didn't catch it too, we just did a podcast not too long ago with Jerome, who walked through a lot of different items on launching in Europe and some of the localization.
That's the right person for that.
And his recommendations for that. So if you're interested in that, I definitely go back and check out that podcast. So any other key things that you're excited about, new features or anything else like that?
Yeah, a lot of the, we're not, as I mentioned, we're still doing lower funnel stuff, but the amount of upper funnel opportunities that are coming out, and it's not just DSP, it's the Prime streaming that just launched last month. It's some of the NFL opportunities. A lot of it's video opportunities, but we're well situated for that. We have a great creative team that produces amazing video content. So when we're ready to take that step, we'll be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if people want to find out more about you or about Made In, where should they go?
Yeah, so Keith Heyman, find me on LinkedIn. If you want to check out Made In, it's madeincookware.com.
Yeah. Well, Keith, awesome to sit down and talk with you again.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And I just love the perspective and the methodical nature that you approach ads with. So I love having these conversations and just seeing how you're looking at piece by piece, what is the true impact of my ads, and then building upon that. So always fun to hear.
Cool. Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and as always, we really appreciate you listening to the Ad Project Podcast. This has been another recording that we got to do at the Prosper Show in Vegas. And so, as always, hope you'll join us on the next episode. And thanks for listening.